What's Star Wars Jedi Survivor like? Star Wars Jedi Survivor is a direct sequel to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which you may remember as one of the very rare Star Wars games that EA didn't do everything in their power to ruin the entire industry with. The game is very forthcoming about the story thus far, even if you haven't played the first game, so much so that the literal goal of the entire previous game is just sitting on a shelf in your ship. It opens up with a cutscene montage that shows all of the major characters, some semi-cryptic dialogue, and essentially gives you the answer to the "Yeah, that's me. You might be wondering how I ended up here" question. If you liked Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor is largely the same, with a couple of new mechanics sprinkled in here and there. Jedi Survivor, like Fallen Order before it, is a super interesting mishmash of ideas and ingredients that I never knew I wanted together, kinda like the first time I tried Hawaiian pizza. The suits at EA seem to finally relent on making a modern, single-player, story-based Star Wars game, and after seeing how successful the first one was, they just couldn't say no to the money, sequel, even if they secretly want the Star Wars Jedi series to fail, but that's just my tinfoil hat. The Star Wars Jedi games are both Star Wars-themed Metroidvania Souls-like games with Uncharted-style exploration and Titanfall parkour just because they could. And if that sounds cool to the people who understood all of that gaming jargon, it's because it is. I'm entirely convinced that it's either because EA did literally nothing for the entire game and let Respawn make all of the decisions, or the higher-ups at EA lost their minds, much like how I just lost subscribers over that Hawaiian pizza comment. Ironically, something that isn't lost, considering this game takes inspiration from Metroid, is Cal's stuff. Cal Kestis starts the game with his lightsaber. Well, okay, he starts in handcuffs, but when he gets it back, his lightsaber is fully intact and modular, and he can use the advanced stances from the mid and end points of the last game. So, spoilers for Fallen Order, but look my two hands! Wait a minute, hold on, I don't think I read that right. Look my no hands! Now, I feel as though I've gone on long enough without addressing the Rancor-sized elephant in the room, because I was about to go on a spiel about how accessible this game is, but then I got recommended a Legacy Killer video, then an Ordinary Gamers video, and a Young Yeah video, and a couple mean comments later. It was all downhill for the game from there. So I did some research, and you know who this game is most accessible to? No one. Like, just actually no one. Except me. Yeah, so, this is a little bit awkward because if you've watched my channel for long enough or long at all, you know how anal I can get with my critiques sometimes, especially concerning visuals and stability in games, and this is the part where I warn you and tear the game a preemptive new one before really laying into it in the Is It Actually Good video, because Star Wars Jedi Survivor is Days Gone, Cyberpunk 2077, Arkham Knight, Callisto Protocol bad. Constant crashing on all platforms, the PC frame rate that struggles to chug along even at minimum settings for 20 frames, it's a nightmare. And yet, for me, on day one, literally 1 hour after the game unlocked on Steam, I played it, and the game was just fine. I mean, sure, there are plenty of bugs, but nothing game-breaking in any way ever happened to me. For me, the guy who can find problems with everything and condemns glitchy, broken games to, at best, a low mid-tier grave, I was the miracle child whose game actually worked right on release, and I cannot explain that, I don't understand that, and I'm even playing it on PC, which is allegedly the absolute worst possible way to experience this game on launch. But I legit didn't even know there were problems until I got recommended that first Legacy Killer video and then started looking around. So with that being said, please understand that my commentary is coming from a standpoint of when the game actually works. And when it works, it's a very play-it-your-way type of game. While there can arguably be a proper experience if you select a mid to upper mid difficulty and not change any of the other settings, this is one of the most accessible games I have ever seen. Mouse and keyboard and controller support, toggles to basically just ignore quick time events or things that require you to mash, several difficulty modes, and I kid you not, there is even a setting for, get this, arachnophobia, which, when toggled, will change the models of some enemies in the game to be less insect-like. This is one of those really bizarre circumstances where EA's greed can arguably be a good thing, because realizing that they can't milk you while you are playing the game, their only real option is to do what games used to have to do. They have to sell well and accommodate a large audience. And so, they've designed this game with so many options that virtually anyone of any skill level or interest can play it. On the topic of whether or not games should be carefully cultivated experiences that are designed to be experienced in one very precise and refined way, or to be broadly accessible and customizable to the player's preferences so that they can have the experiences they want, I admittedly don't tend to pick a particular side. But what I will say is the worst thing you could ever do is not pick one of them. Either you can be Mario Kart, where the experience is perfectly crafted to be exactly the way it should be, or you can be Smash Bros, where you can customize every single thing about the experience. The worst thing you could ever do in terms of accessibility for a game is only going halfway and not committing to either a super polished or super accessible model. Jedi Survivor is one of the rare examples of a game that attempts to cater to both and, generally speaking, succeeds. You can have your borderline non-game where you turn it into a walking simulator on a Star Wars set and you can largely put the controller down, or you can have your hardcore Dark Soulsian Star Wars dueling simulator where a single gameplay imperfection will mean certain death. And for all of those normal people who like their difficulty somewhere in between, you get a game with lots of fun exploration, endearing character moments and acting, satisfying yet approachable challenge, and a great melee combat system that feels like if Sekiro was set in the Star Wars universe. So if you were to ask me if I recommend Star Wars Jedi Survivor, I'd say